Hello, partners. I am so happy to join you all today. I'm Lori Smith. I'm part of the global marketing organization here at Trend. And I feel really privileged to speak to you today in ways that Trend can enable you to help your customers solve security challenges across the organization. I think it's important to start off by setting some context and empathizing with our customers' challenges and pain points. At the end of the day, everything starts with our respective customer, what they're facing, what they need, what they value. And I think it's important that you have confidence in Trend, that we understand your customers' challenges, because ultimately they're the driving force behind everything we do and how we're defining our platform strategies and priorities and programs. So the growing attack surface is among the most significant challenges organizations are facing today. Your customers, as you know, have a very complex and diverse digital environment, and that presents ever-growing opportunities for attack, right? An increased number of cyber assets means more assets that could be potentially vulnerable. It means more areas of potential weakness in the infrastructure, and just overall a bigger, more profitable target that cyber criminals are only too eager to exploit. And so your customers are looking to better monitor, secure, and support that full scope of their environment, right? Across users and devices, wherever they are and whatever they're doing, across the data center and cloud, from workloads to cloud native apps to cloud storage. The network, inclusive of OT and IoT and service edge and more. And that is no easy feat. For already overstretched security teams, it's a struggle to identify all of the organization's cyber assets and all of the attack vectors, so those entry points into the enterprise. And that visibility to that attack surface is enormously critical and is something that you're hearing a lot about with attack surface management, being a top priority. We would argue that type of visibility into that attack surface is just the first step, right? Understanding the risk and the exposure that that attack surface represents and translating that into actionable insight, into how to proactively harden defenses and reduce vulnerabilities and avoid breaches. That's what's necessary to produce actual business value and performance outcomes. So combining that asset discovery with risk assessment and proactive mitigation is where the real advantages are going to come from. One of the areas in particular that's lacking insight is on the cloud side, due in large part to the conflicting priorities between those two groups involved, right? Security teams on one side, they don't have the visibility into the infrastructure and the cloud services that cloud team is using. And so that really puts them at a disadvantage in terms of, being able to understand the exposure, identify events when they happen, and to know what security controls are needed to be put in place. On the other side, the cloud teams, too often view security as getting in the way, right? They're the gatekeepers, and the need for control is just slowing them down. And so we understand that your customers are looking for ways to bridge that gap, right? They need to find new ways to meet the respective goals of each of the teams. And so that means looking for solutions that can more easily incorporate security into the cloud services and the development processes, not in addition to. And so with all the challenges discussed, it's no wonder that security teams are overwhelmed, right? With their endless list of issues to remediate, right? Vulnerabilities, configuration problems, missing security controls, an enormous amount of detection alerts. I mean, that's why the analyst experience needs to be front and center, right? Your customer security teams need to have the confidence in the solutions they're investing in, that they're actually going to augment security analysts' efforts and contributions, right? Whether that is being able to surface fewer and higher confidence detections, be able to more easily prioritize areas of concern and focus, recommending and serving up mitigation recommendations that are going to have the highest impact, and just generally streamlining and automating workflows so that you can enable quicker analysis and action. Why is it so overwhelming? Big contributor is that there's too many silos, right? Many organizations are leveraging quite a large combination of security tools, and which means that, which has operational concerns, but also security concerns, right? It means that serious threats are evading detection because data is collected and analyzed in silos. EDR has been enormously valuable. However, despite the depth of capability, it's restricted because it's looking at only managed endpoints. And as we saw earlier, that's just a tiny slice of that overall attack surface. And so it limits the scope of threats that can be detected, and importantly, the visibility regarding who and what else has been affected. And the same is true for any single vector point solution detection capability. In these cases, each solution is collecting data and offering perspective for that particular function, right? So it can alert of suspicious activity for that vector, but cannot account for how it might be related to other activities happening on other layers across the network. And so this means a lot of alerts, but missing context. And that's what often is what allows threats to avoid detection. Hence this massive shift that we've been seeing from these point detection and response to XDR, extended detection and response. And these silos have led to security tool sprawl, right? This is a growing problem. An increase in tools by default means an exponential increase in complexity. And the rate of adding new tools we have found that far outstrips the capacity to use them, the team to use them. And too many organizations have these dozens of tools that are disconnected. And so they don't come together to solve the ultimate challenge, and in fact are creating new ones. So we have a situation where we have tools, but we don't have people to train them, and no time to get up to speed, no way to utilize the tool to its full capacity. And this duplication and disconnect is costly and causing a lot of complexity. And so this is why, again, we're seeing a shift from this point product perspective to platform approach. So we've talked about these growing risks, and that topic has increasingly become a boardroom discussion, right? Understanding risk status and exposure is a boardroom priority, and that CISO or security leader and their respective team, they're desperate as a result for greater visibility into the key risk factors that can help them define their security priorities and show impact, and to drive better decision-making from a security operations standpoint, but also business decision-making. So customers are really looking for those insight and the resources to not only quantify and communicate risk status and value metrics to key stakeholders, but also to help be able to demonstrate defense and security posture for compliance and cyber insurance purposes, which we know is a massive priority for customers today. And this elevation of cyber risk has really led to a fundamental shift among security operations and also in trends strategy. And that's this notion of being able to serve across both proactive and reactive security approaches. And this concept is very comparable to a person's health, right? So quickly diagnosing and treating an illness is critical to our well-being, of course. But do we really want to wait until something happens, right? Or do we want regular checkups, to monitor and track our health and proactively identify any areas of concern? And so with that information, with regular checkups, we can take preventative measures to minimize the chance of a health issue and keeping ourselves as safe and healthy as possible. So just as with our health, organizations don't want to put the entire responsibility on that security or SOC team to respond only when a breach has happened or only when an event has been detected. It's about enabling teams to identify potential problems and address them before they become serious events. And so it's this notion of an integrated approach that combines both proactive and reactive measures to manage an organization's health. And this is where you're hearing the concept of attack surface risk management come into play. And the distinct opportunity here is to help provide companies the technological means to be more proactive in managing cyber risk. And that involves discovering the attack surface, right? So how well can I see what assets are in my environment? What, how many, what types, what are the attributes associated with them? Where are my high value, high risk assets? And how is this changing? Then it's about assessing and prioritizing the risk. So can I quantify my risk? What is my risk score? Is it increasing or decreasing over time? How does it compare to peers in my industry? Where do I see the most significant risk and what needs most attention? And importantly, on this factor, you really want to be measuring risk using meaningful criteria and leveraging relevant industry frameworks to really understand and be able to communicate. And then lastly, we close the circle with mitigation. And mitigation is all about serving up those prioritized, recommendations of the most impactful actions that can be taken to lower your risk, whether that's, patching for a high-risk vulnerability or changing a security configuration, introducing a new security control, etc. And so as we've talked about the challenges and some of these shifts in strategy, it's clear how interconnected everything is, right? Common priorities, related pain points, sort of underlying root cause of, growing attack surface risk. And so just as the challenges are connected, so too should the solution. So this need to adopt a consolidated platform for more holistic security has never been more critical. And trend one is our answer to that, right? So our platform represents all we can do in support of an organization's cybersecurity efforts. So it encompasses the solutions and the services and the technology capabilities that serve security and operations groups across the organization, across functions. But most importantly, it represents how it's all being brought together under a common framework. And with attack surface risk management being weaved throughout the platform as we're defining sort of a clear purpose and customer value for our Trend One strategy. We really stand ahead of the competition on both our coverage across the enterprise's attack surface and the extent in which we can deliver across the attack protection cycle, from preventing, detecting, and responding to threats through to assessing, anticipating, and mitigating cyber risks. And even organizations that have already invested in other point products, which is always going to be the case, they can benefit from adopting trend. Each solution area within trend one is an opportunity for you to help your customer solve an immediate pain point, but it also lays the groundwork for wider adoption and future consolidation opportunities, right? With the confidence that each additional capability that the customer adopts is going to mesh seamlessly with what they've already deployed, and it's going to unlock new benefits and exponential value as a result of being all part of a platform approach. So with trend one, you can offer not just a solution, but a solution path to ongoing security value. And that value being, greater security outcomes, right? Greater effectiveness, operational efficiency, business performance, all as a result of being able to enable your customers the opportunity to consolidate vendors, reduce the cost and complexity, and stay compliant. And so this is where we're all coming together from a trend one platform approach, leveraging proactive to reactive approaches to security. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight. Again, thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure to be with you today.